Hey everyone. Hi. Sorry about that. I turned the computer on and then I got all that choppiness again. Um so I had to reset some things, but hopefully it looks okay. I'm I don't know what I did last night. I was trying to fix some things and then uh everything got messed up. So if it looks a little different today, sorry. Let me find the chat window so I can see what you guys are talking about. There it is. I'm going to do one more quick thing and then I'll be ready to start to jibber jabber here. Oh my goodness. Where am I? Oh, I think. Oops. There. Right hand, left hand, and green screen. Okay. I really try to get these things set up, but I got into a phone call this morning and it kind of held me up. But all right. Where am I? Oh, what's with this? I was trying different backgrounds too. So this is like some picture I took. I took this picture in my background here with my Pen PL8 and 75 to 300 when there was good light. And it came out pretty good, I think. So I'll use that as my background today. Yeah, the seagulls, they're actually not bad. The birds that are kind of a little bit aggressive where I live are those Canadian geese. Man, those things they get pushy and protective, and they're there's a auto channel, YouTube channel called Savage Geese, who can appreciate what I'm talking about. But he does auto or car reviews and things, and he drives cars. He's got to be one of the best uh, automotive car review guys online, because he knows cars. You know, he's always looking. He looks at it from a performance perspective mostly. But if you haven't seen his channel, check it out. Um, okay, so let's see. Hi everyone. Let me see who's in here. Plato, Patrick, how are you? Peter, awesome, awesome. John, Serge, good to see everyone. Rick, awesome tips there on my last video. If you guys get a chance on my last video about the taking that shot of the cameras and stuff with live composite, Rick left some terrific suggestions there that everyone can try, including myself. I want to try a couple of those ideas, uh, because really half the battle in doing product photography is coming up with the imagery or story or subject that you want to show. I mean, product photography is not always about just the studio shots, where you just see the item itself, that like you see on Amazon all the time, right? Just the white background and front angle, top angle, etc. A lot of the product photography, it has to be lifestyle photography where you see the person using the item, or someone can picture themselves using it that way. And then there's also the beauty shots of if the product has particularly good detail or some thought went into the design. They like to focus in or do macro shots of those. And so because I watched a bunch of product photography videos and kind of got a feel for what actual product photographers do, because I'm not a product photographer by any means. And so that's kind of uh, how I kind of came up with the idea in my last video to tell the story of what Olympus kind of means to me. What I didn't say in that video was that the OM2S was actually my first Olympus camera that I bought when I was back in college, and I was shooting with that a lot. And now I shoot with the EM5 Mark III and all the OMDs. But it's kind of my story with Olympus from the OM2S up to today, and then some of the pictures and the memories I captured. And a couple live streams ago, I found a bunch of negatives from my college days that were taken with that camera that I need to develop. But I like the idea of how you can sort of juxtapose the different technologies the way Rick had suggested, showing the film versus digital, and working in the front and back of the camera into the shot, either through reflections or just maybe a composite of some kind. So I may do some more like that, because I think a lot of us are home these days, or have that opportunity to be home more. So I'm going to try and play around with some of those ideas a little bit more and really explore doing the best I can, or at least improve, right? That kind of photography, because it's fun, and if you want to do it professionally, obviously you need to take it up 10 levels from what I did in that video with focus stacking and multiple types of lighting sources to uh, illuminate the product in a way that is attractive. So excuse me, my throat is so phlegmy this morning. It's not a cold, it's just overnight my allergies kind of build up sometimes and my lungs get a little congested. Chuck, how are you? Let's see. Hi, AJ. So yeah, so I was having fun with that. It's I've played with the live composite before on a limited basis, and I have a couple of videos on that, but I've never really tried to explore it. And I think that's one of the things that uh, as a photographer, for me, I need to improve on, is to uh, take some time to really focus on one particular genre or subject and explore it, to the extent that I can. Because as I've told many people, either through live streams or comments and email, that I'm a very opt man, I can't speak today. Opter op oh my god. Optune artistic photographer. I just carry my camera with me everywhere, and when I have some time, I'll just stop and start taking pictures, no matter where I am. And whenever I make a conscious effort to go out and do a photo walk, it's rare. So that's why a lot of the photo walks are just in different places, because that's where I happen to be that day, whether it was for a photo job or visiting someone. And if I can, I try to budget a little extra time so I can go somewhere in that area and take you guys somewhere new, because the planned photo walks are usually just right here in Alexandria that I go to. And I'm so bored with Alexandria, photographically speaking. And that's because of my habit of just going out and taking pictures whenever I get a chance. When I actually plan to do something, I think if I go back there with the intent to capture a particular theme or story about Alexandria, I'll be able to go back there all the time, because there's a photographer that I follow on uh, Instagram that was recommended by Sean Tucker, who's also on YouTube. He's a street photographer in London, and he goes out virtually every day after his day job and takes photos, and he knows everything about that part of town. And he knows exactly when this person goes to the bus stop or goes into the store, whatever it is. He recognizes the habits of people, and he sees a lot of the same people over and over again. And that's just his familiarity with the area. So when he goes out doing photography, he can now that he has all of the ingredients that he wants, he can go out again and wait for that opportunity for those different things to come together in a way that makes a beautiful image. And if I get a chance, I'll look for his Instagram and try and post it somewhere. Maybe in the community tab later after the show, because it would take too long for me to find him at this point. So let's check my temperature. No, I'm fine. I'm fine, Rick. But yeah, so he likes to focus a lot on sort of off. It's a very different kind of street photography. It is street photography, but then it's not. He really approaches it very differently, I think, and that's because he goes out all the time. So I don't know. I'm gonna try and do that maybe in Alexandria because it's only 15 minutes from my house, and it's a beautiful town if you've never been there. But when you've seen it, hundreds of times like I have, with the mindset that I've been going there with, I don't. I got bored, you know. Oh, Serge, you saw him. You saw that guy. His name is Nathan. I think he goes by Nat. But you saw the guy with the tattoo from Olympus doing some portrait live composite. It was pretty good. Oh, I'll have to check it out. Joe Edelman does a lot of that, right? He'll do portraits with live composite. Rob 2.0. Wow. Yeah, and like I said, the name of my channel, Rob Trek, is really about my journey in photography. Right at this point, if you saw my 100th episode, it was really about my journeys in general, and documenting it with my camera. But now it's more about, I think I need to transition into more about my journey in photography and how to become a better photographer. Because I'm so comfortable now with the cameras themselves and can pretty much get any exposure I want. Like I said, I never said it was a good picture, but when I take the picture, I can compose and not just the objects in the scene, but compose the light the way I want it. Like I want this black, I want this white, I want this in mid-tone. So I've had some arguments about, and speaking of composing light, I've had some arguments, or I've seen arguments about the zone system from Ansel Adams. It doesn't apply to digital photography. You have, seems like, I don't know what the split is, but there's very strong group of people that say zone system doesn't matter in digital photography, and then there's another group that says it definitely matters, right? And based on the testing I've done with the zone system, and that may be a upcoming video, is it does apply to digital photography. And if you don't know what the zone system from Ansel Adams is he basically breaks up the image, the light in an image, into 10 or 11 different categories, right? From completely black to completely white, and then the 9 or 10 things in between, and describes that at this level there's very little detail, everything's almost black, and then at this level most of the tones are, there's a lot of good tones in this area, and then in this area there's a lot of good highlight information, then it goes out from there. So it's a dynamic range chart basically. But it's in the testing I did to see when highlights get blown out, when I'm able to recover highlights and shadows within the ranges that Ansel specified. It's pretty spot on, even today. And if nothing else, it'll help you to see light in a scene, because that's usually the first thing I look for before I take a picture is, what is the lighting like? Is this area, is the dynamic range too much for the camera? When you're outdoors on a sunny day, that a lot of times that's the case, and not full sun. I'm talking about like partly cloudy, right? Because sometimes you'll have a lot of shade from the clouds, but then the sun will still be shining full on, So then suddenly there's this high contrast of shadows and highlights between the clouds, not just in the sky, but on the ground too. And, so when I see scenes like that, or you know, I got a feel for, yeah, the camera's not going to be able to pull in the highlights in the clouds, or, the highlights on this particular structure. It's just going to get blown out if I want to try to save the shadows. So exposing to the right, exposing to the left, you have to make a conscious decision about where you want people to focus on, or what you want to be the emphasis in the image. And sometimes it can't be done, outside of doing bracketing and focus bracketing, or not focus, I'm sorry, exposure bracketing, then blending those in and having virtually an HDR. But I try not to do that. I like to try to keep things simple. Um, try to get it in one shot if I can. Not so much that I expect good results from an image that is impossible from a single shot, but to really push my limits, or to understand the limits of myself and the camera. How am I seeing the light? Is it in line with what I know I can capture in the camera? And so that's the zone system, the way I see it. I think it's very, very applicable even today, and it's a very good teaching tool for anyone to learn and be able to take better pictures, with respect to, are you capturing the light the way that you want it? So um, I like I said, I really want to do a tutorial on it. And now that the weather's warmed up, I can actually go out and take actual pictures, because the problem with a lot of channels, when I was learning, I watched a lot of YouTube, is there weren't too many people that just went out and took a picture and then showed you straight out of camera what they got. They'd always show you the picture, but God knows how much work went into that prior to showing you. Um, the only person that I've seen consistently really give you their workflow, and when I say consistently, I mean he does show it time to time, and that's Thomas Heaton, right? He's a landscape photographer, and he'll show you time to time. He'll have a video about a picture he took and what he did to edit it to get it to where he was. And a lot of times there's not a huge difference between the out of camera and the post processing. The post processing usually is just getting rid of some twigs and other distractions and mild cropping, maybe a tiny bit of contrast. But so I really respect that from Thomas Heaton, that he does show the before and after, uh, but it's hard with other channels sometimes to get a feel for, man, that's a beautiful image, but then you see the differences between uh, the the straight out of camera and the post processing. Because post processing, you can go crazy, and really make an image just out of this world. A huge difference from the original. And and people go out watching that channel thinking they're going to go out and take the same picture without post processing, and basically they're not. I was going to try and show you a really good example that I found, because I'm still trying to organize my freaking images from the last 6 years or 7 years. And um seriously, 23,000 images, but only 3 are flagged? Well, I guess I'm not going to show you that one, but I could have sworn I had it right here. And then, you know, that's this is a good example of my workflow. You know, it's like I come into a live stream unprepared. It's very impromptu, very obtuse. I don't know why I'm having trouble with that word. Um, but it's just how I approach my photography. I have my camera and I go out and I take pictures. um, and I have nothing against post processing. I think there's definitely a lot to be said for doing work in post processing and getting the image that you want. But it always starts with your initial image and understanding of the how your camera is going to react to the light will, you know, definitely is directly corresponds to how much you can do in post processing. uh yeah, leptocinose, leptospiracy, leptopiracy. God, I'm so sorry. I hate to call you lepto because that sounds like a disease, but lep leptospiracy. You know, you'll have to spell that out for me phonetically because I hate messing that up. Uh, this seagull, I meant to change this background image before I got online, but I was so rushed this morning. Thank you. Opportunistic. God. Opportunistic. And my spelling and everything, I'm starting to get like starting to wonder if I have Alzheimer's or something, some mental issue sometimes. Cuz I I just lose my train of thought so quickly sometimes. And I got a good night's sleep last night, I think. I'll have to check my phone. um, and you know, I had a email from Rick. He's a great guy. He's a really big inspiration for me because he emails me uh, suggestions and dialogue all the time, and he has a lot of experience as a teacher, as a professional photographer, and then very diverse life otherwise. That, you know, if he wants to share with you guys, he can. But uh, one of the things that he was surprised was that I do art bracketing. And art bracketing, if you're not familiar, is basically you take a picture and then the camera will automatically apply the selected art filters that you want to the image. And then when you go back into post processing, you can just pick the one that looked best. And that's not too different than spray and pray, right? You just take as many pictures as you can and then you just pick one after the fact. And you don't give any thought to the image while you're there, right? Um, so I think there's some validity to that. The way I look at art bracketing is, you know, I wanted to get very quickly up to speed of how each filter looks for each kind of scene because I wasn't familiar with the all of the art filters in the camera initially, right? Nobody is, and how it's going to uh, affect or change the look or mood or image of the scene, either through color, lack of color, uh, or, you know, pushing shadows and highlights, adding grain, etc. And that's how I very quickly got up to speed with when I look at a scene, I have a very good feel for what art filter is going to look good and, you know, for the scene or give me the look that I want. Like when I did my live composite video, I wanted to go with that vintage look filter because I thought that would really make really make an interesting. It had very good contrast and slight tweaks to the colors, individual colors to the image that I thought would be very nice in the final image. And at the same time, it adds a little bit of haze to the image that's very subtle, to give it sort of that overall vintage look. And a lot of scenes that I approach, I think like gentle sepia looks good, and gentle sepia art filter is different than just the sepia setting in monochrome in the camera. Gentle sepia again applies additional tones to the or adjust the tone curve a little bit, so it's a little bit punchier. So if you do want to shoot in sepia, choose gentle sepia versus regular sepia and see the differences and which one you prefer. So Lepto's saying it actually is the name of a disease. I was so pissed off trying to get the name valid and not already used on YouTube that it was the first random word that Google accepted. Oh, no wonder. So it's not even a real word or name. It's just something kind of made up. Yeah, press and pray, Rick is saying. And I agree with that. Don't art bracket just to get a bunch of pictures and then pick one that looks good later. If you're, when you do art bracketing, I recommend it in the sense that you want to understand what each art filter is doing, so that eventually and in a faster way get up to speed to how each art filter looks on any kind of image. And then once you have that in your head or a feel for the individual art filters, go out and take pictures with the specific intent to use a specific art filter for a specific scene. It for me, it was never about just bracketing everything and being lazy and then picking the one that looks good. It was about really trying to understand what each art filter was doing and how it looked, and that was the way I was able to get quickly up to speed. And you could do that with any kind of bracketing, right? You could do exposure bracketing of a scene, not with the intent to remerge them or do an HDR, but to see how they look at different exposures, right? Plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, and analyze that and get a feel for what you like, or what is it what you expected. And you could also do white balance bracketing. There's so many choices for bracketing in our cameras that I've not seen in any other camera, and that's why I love Olympus, and am able to really work with the camera in a way that gives me the images that I want, and explore all of the different possibilities. And the learning curve is a lot shorter because you can do these different types of bracketing to understand how the camera takes pictures and what happens when you do all these different settings without having to go out and do it manually, right? You can just bracket the shots, and whether it's white balance or exposure bracketing, and do it on multiple different scenes, right? And analyze those back in post processing, and understand your camera. And that's why Workspace is so great, because it gives you all of the fine detail or EXIF data and tells you exactly what the settings were in the camera. And I think someone mentioned, I think it was Jack or somebody in the community tab mentioned that Olympus should let you take an art filter and make changes to it directly, like see what, basically do post-processing in your camera over and beyond just a simple preset. I want a vintage filter. And I think there's something to that. If I recall correctly, one of the Leica cameras came with Lightroom built in. I think it was Leica, where you could just do full-on edits in camera, which I thought was kind of cool. Okay, Livnor says, Leo Bimore. Sorry, I'm so bad at pronunciation. I can't even pronounce half the English language, let alone everyone's names. But Uh, Liu Bumir is asking, "Hey Rob, don't know if you remember, but a month ago I asked for tips for a birthday party photo shoot at a restaurant. Your tips helped, and it was great. People were like, oh, okay." I do remember giving tips about going to a birthday party, but I'm glad that worked out for you. Thank you. I'm trying to be safe. I did go out to dinner last night, and you know, it you don't feel the same though. This restaurant is normally packed, and there's like a 2 hour wait list, and I just walked in there yesterday with no wait. You know, the restaurants and all the businesses here and it's are suffering. But anyhow, um, anyone know if using a fisheye lens rather than a 12 millimeter wide angle for landscape makes sense? Yeah, I've used fisheye lenses for landscapes. Heck, I just saw one in my thing here. Let me see, and they're really cool. Oh, wait, not there. Here's one. Um, how do I share this? 1 second. Yeah, there's a fisheye image. Now with landscape, it doesn't look like fisheye. This was about 5 years ago when I was shooting with my Nikon. But it won't matter, whether it's Olympus or Nikon. When you put a fisheye lens on, when the field of view is that wide, but the objects are that far away, that fisheye effect is reduced quite a bit on the objects in the distance. So let me see. Where is it? Right next to it. This is the same shot, I think, with the same lens, isn't it? No. Yeah, this is the same lens with a fish. It was a fisheye lens, 6.5 millimeter on a full frame. What did I must have done some correction on that one. But this is the same fisheye lens. All I did was crop in to the center and cut out all the fisheye part. Here's a. I was trying to do some astrophotography with this lens. It didn't come out all that great, but it's still kind of a cool picture. So I was just kind of experimenting back then. I need to get a really true fisheye lens for my Olympus camera. I did see one online. I think it's a Mikey. But or is it Laowa? They have a 4 millimeter fisheye. That's really cool. But yeah, definitely. If you can use a fisheye, it's great. Alex says, "Hey Rob, a question. I've been think a lot lately, but would you recommend people upgrades from the EM2 to the EM3? What's your experience?" I assume you mean the EM1 Mark II and the EM1 Mark III. I don't think it's really worth the upgrade. It really depends on what kind of photographer you are. If you shoot a lot of shots at night, still images like architecture and maybe some limited street photography, the handheld high-res shot mode is amazing at reducing the noise in the image. And if you do a lot of astrophotography, the Star AF really takes a lot of the work out of astrophotography for you. But if you're not doing those two kinds of photography, more than half of your shots, or I don't, whatever percentage, those are the two main things that I see benefit to in the M1 Mark III at this point. And then if you do video, it does seem like the image stabilization is a little better for video, and the uh, the audio system, uh, mic input is a lot better. It sounds a lot cleaner. There's not as much hiss. And I'll have to do a side-by-side test, but to my ear, it's a much higher quality audio chipset in the camera. So, assuming you use external microphones of, good quality and stuff, you'll get really good audio. But everything else outside of those things, there's really not much difference between it and the M1 Mark II. So I think if I would wait until if there's any additional firmware updates that come out that also add some other improvements to the camera, because it does have the new chipset that has the potential to bring a lot of interesting firmware updates. So if you have an EM1 Mark II now, just wait for some firmware updates, or wait till the price comes down even more before you upgrade, if you need to at all. And like I said, only specifically for those other features. I'm not really seeing any other major benefits. I mean, supposedly the autofocus is better with the eye detect. It's not something I can test for because I'm not a portrait guy. So I don't have like models walking around that I can test it on. And but people say that that's very good too, but I can't speak to that part. But that may be another reason to upgrade to the M1 Mark III. The low light focusing seems about the same. I haven't tested side by side the continuous autofocus tracking, like when I'm shooting my dog, against the M1 Mark II, but it seems about the same to me, just from feel. I don't feel any significant improvement in the continuous autofocus. The continuous autofocus, and when I say I don't see any improvement or difference in the tracking, they both suck. But most cameras suck at tracking. I don't care what video you see with these other cameras where they're trying to track something and they say it's awesome. Uh, like I have my Fuji X-T30, which everybody says has the best or one of the best tracking autofocus systems. And when I put that side by side with my EM1 Mark III, and they're very different cameras, obviously, it sucked. I don't think I got more than 2 pictures of my dog in focus uh, out of 20 or 30 shots. Versus the M1 Mark III, I got several in focus compared to the X-T30. So, maybe an X-T3 or an X-T4 would do better. But if the X-T30 is already that bad, they'd have to improve it 1,000 times over or tenfold before I think it's even close to what the EM1 Mark III can do. That was something that surprised me a little bit, and I do want to do a video with the 2 cameras side by side, and maybe it's not a fair comparison, but I think it does give some perspective between the Fujifilm tracking system and Olympus's tracking system, or autofocus system, I should say, not the tracking. A little of both. That because people think, oh, the X-T30 is just kind of a mini X-T3. They're virtually the same in every way. And if that's the case, man, the Fuji users are in trouble. They are being misled, because the kind of shots I see in the videos and things is like a guy on a bicycle with DP review, or uh, other channels. They just have their models walking back and forth or running back and forth. But when I was shooting in my backyard, throwing the ball with my dog, uh, and I'm not talking about side to side action. I'm talking about she's running towards me from a distance, and I got the focus point spot on, right? And I'm serious. I would be surprised if 1 or 2 shots came into focus with that X-T30. And the M1 Mark III, I didn't do a count yet, but at least half were in focus. Uh, So I don't know if anybody has an XT30 and having better experience, let me know. But my experience of shooting my dog, even my Nikon D750 did a better job than that uh, XT30 did. And not counting the shutter speed or frames per second that the EM1 Mark III is capable of. I mean, it just blew through the images. Whereas the XT30 was just click, 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 click. You know, it was like so slow. um, okay, let's see. A lot of talk on the fisheye here that I've kind of overlooked. Let me skim back a little bit. John Matthews, how are you? It says, with my family photos, I've been trying to keep only 300 per year because who is going to look at 6,000 photos that I have? Yeah, 300 per year. I'm lucky if I have 300 shots per year of my own family. I'm going to try and improve on that. Yeah, I miss my dad. I don't want to go there. I'll start crying. uh, Oh, Kostov, how are you? It says here, I am trying to learn using flash outdoor for portrait when the sun is behind the object. Not easy. Do you plan to do some demo? Yeah, I can do one. I did something that's kind of will get you in the right, get you off the right foot. It's not dedicated to taking pictures in the sun, but essentially it's one of my Godox flash videos where I search my channel for something about ND filters. Basically, you need an ND filter. You know, I see a lot of videos they try to do with high-speed sync, and unless you have a full-on, 600-watt studio strobe, high-speed sync ain't gonna cut it outdoors. It just reduces the flash power too much. So I'd rather use an ND filter uh, with maybe a 200-watt flash, or even you could even do it with a full power flash, one that uses like 4 batteries or lithium batteries. The little 2-battery Godox flash that I have can just barely manage uh, a very highly backlit image with a subject outdoors. It just doesn't have enough juice because it's only 2-battery flash. Um, so I'll try, but if you want to get a feel for to get started, I think my ND filter video is pretty good. The Samyang 7.5 millimeter fisheye. Yeah, I hear that's good. I think that's what I have for my Nikon. I mean, it's branded a different brand, but it's the same lens. It's a f3.5 7.5 millimeter. And that's the shot that you saw on the one that I showed earlier with my Nikon. I tried putting that lens on my Micro Four Thirds, but it's just too bulky. It's too bulky, and it doesn't really quite have that fisheye look to it anymore because of the cropping. So I need to get like a 4 millimeter from Laowa to get that true circular fisheye look on a Micro Four Thirds. AJ says, how are you? Hi Rob, would you prefer to use the more expensive Ollie fisheye lens for Astro and Starry F or manual lens like the Laowa? I would. It really just depends on your budget. If I didn't have the budget for the fisheye lens, which I do own, I'm going to use the fisheye every time because I know the optical quality is excellent on that lens. It's not to say that there are other brands out there that do excellent. Like I use I have a little cheap little $60 fisheye that does an excellent job, but it's an f3.8 or something weird, effectively an f4. It's not fast enough for astrophotography, but I've seen 30 third-party lenses for like $200 or less that are like f2s or f2.8s fisheye, and I think those would be excellent. but I haven't tried them myself. I think that manually focusing is not a big deal. Uh, once you get a feel for it, it does take a little bit. I mean, it's kind of half the battle in astrophotography is getting the focus right. Uh, but if you can punch in with the magnification on the live view, and then you can manually focus, you can usually get it pretty close. My problem is with that kind of focusing is sometimes I can't see the live view screen because my eyes, I have to wear my glasses and I don't always have them with me, or when I do have them with me and go out, it's still hard sometimes to get the exact point of focus manually focusing, even with a 14x zoom, because the stars are so tiny on a fisheye lens that even like you're trying to focus on the North Star, which is the biggest, brightest star, it's so tiny, it's still hard to get the manual focus right. So that's why I'm really excited about the Starry AF that I want to try out. Uh, but that aside, in practice, if unless you're a hardcore astrophotographer, I think you'll be fine with any of the generic fisheye lenses and manually focusing. You can get it close enough that to the naked eye, like if you put it on Instagram or Facebook, nobody's going to know that it was just a tiny bit out of focus, right? Um, Alex says, thanks, Rob. That's the exact what I was asking for. And indeed, I shoot mainly in low light condition for urban landscape and some astros sometime. Okay, Alex. Yeah, I think for those two things, it's awesome. I was really amazed at the handheld high res shot. It takes 16 images. So in theory, you could go up, you know, uh, 16 stops, better image quality. But in practice, I feel like if I was shooting in handheld high res shot mode at ISO 800 or even up to 1600, it felt like I was shooting at the native ISO 200 uh, ISO. It's pretty amazing. I know at ISO 800, definitely it felt like ISO 200, and at 1600. And I do have some tips for setting the handheld high res shot mode. Basically, and I can't figure out why this makes a difference in RAW, but it does, is turn the sharpening setting in the camera down to -2. Because sharpening is totally artificial in the camera. It's processing in the camera and sharpening the image. But when you're stacking 16 images together that have all been sort of sharpened even slightly, the image looks noisier. So I turn the sharpening down to -2 when I'm taking a shot. It makes a big difference in your JPEGs. But I'm noticing it's making a difference in the raw image as well, which is not supposed to have any processing applied to it, but apparently it seems like there is. So I'm gonna do some more testing on that. Uh, and sometimes I like to reduce the color as well. Like I said, I'm experimenting with the high res shot mode a little bit to see what produces the best result, because of that image stacking, multiplies everything, right? It multiplies any processing in the camera, whether it's color and sharpness and contrast. Um, and it may be very, very subtle, but you're shooting handheld high res to print large or to pixel peep to death, right? You want to see the details, right? That's why you shoot handheld high res shot mode. And I've noticed differences in the quality of the handheld high res shot mode depending on the settings I use. Kim says, I'm trying to find out if the program workspace will work on an iPad Pro. I don't think it does. I've seen Mac version and Windows version, but I don't have an iPad. I have no idea. I don't use Apple at all. I'm in the Google Android ecosystem. So, once you kind of get into a system, you're pretty much locked in for life, right? Oh, awesome, Costa. You're gonna get a Godox. You know, the Godox, if you really want to get serious about portrait photography, get the Godox 8200 and an umbrella, and you'll be able to shoot an outdoor sun pretty much uh, with no problem. Assuming you can keep the light source close to the subject. You know, there's a lot of tutorials where they're out on the beach, right? And they have the light stands kind of far away, and they have the model standing up on a rock in the distance. Yeah, the 8200 is not going to be able to handle that. You need a 600,000 watt strobe, but uh, you know, I think the 8200 will probably you're probably covered for 90% of your portrait work. Where if you're within 3 meters of the subject, you're fine. And with portrait work, normally you are. Or you're in the U.S., so if you're within 10 feet of the model, 8200 will be just fine. Oh, Photo 7 says he has three 8200s. Planning on getting another one. Yeah, they're awesome. They're awesome flashes. I just have one, and they're I think they're $350 now because it's a pro model. I have the non-pro model because I didn't have a pro model when I bought it, and it's fine. I want to get the little round head for it though, for the 8200, and that's the other nice thing. You can buy different heads for the 8200 for like $60 or something, which you can't do on most flashes or non-strobe flashes. Oh, Roberto, I'm sorry, man. It's 1:22 in the morning there. Wow. Hi, Elaine. How are you? Did you just come in, or am I? Did I miss your previous comments? Arthur, how are you, buddy? Good to see you. And let's see. Elaine was watched, I guess, my live composite video. I'm a little confused. Are you still not able to do the live composite like I was showing in the video, or now you know how to do it? I'm a little confused if you know how to do those things or not. Because I have another video that goes into a lot more detail about live composite that you can watch. So just search my channel for live composite, and it's probably a 2 or 3 year old video. And I was using the EM10, but the techniques would apply even to the EM1 Mark III. But that goes in very exhaustive detail. It's like a 40-minute video or something. All right. Really tired this morning, huh, Elaine? Yeah. Did you have some coffee yet? Maybe you don't drink coffee or tea. Yeah, I can't do nothing until I have my coffee. John Softly, how are you, buddy? Always good to see you. Oh, so photos when you have the non-pros, yeah, they're fine. I forget what the pro version has over the non-pro. Uh, the only thing I've noticed, and the reason I want to get the round head for the 8200 is I did notice a little bit of uneven patterns in the lighting, and a round head would kind of solve that. Because a lot of times I shoot without an umbrella, and um, I have to. It's very rare that I have a problem with that, but there are times when the lighting output is a little bit uneven, and I've had to do some correction in post. And I loathe post processing. I hate it. Uh, oh, okay. Elaine, I think you said you have the EM5. Just watch my video on um I have that whole beginner series that you've probably seen, but I have that other video that you might want to rewatch is all my menu settings explained, and it's about a 2-year-old video, but that one goes into pretty good detail. Tony, how are you? From the UK. Oh, you like the video on the composite. Thanks. Yeah, that seemed to be pretty popular. Yeah, it's very similar to my flower videos where I pop the flash. And so, like I said, the camera has so many capabilities, and it's just a matter of applying them in different situations, and that and making that connection is the hard part, right? Like I have this feature, I can use it for this, but then it doesn't occur to you, man, this would work in 10 other things, right? uh, Rob, you have by just convinced me to stick to my M1 Mark II and not upgrade. Okay, good. Good. Yeah, it's not a big deal, really. I mean, it's an awesome camera for the things that it can do well that the M1 Mark II cannot, but where the things overlap, they are equal. Like if you're just taking a picture, one is not better than the other. So the overlapping areas, which is about 90% of the camera overlaps, there's no difference. It's that 10% that if it applies to you, it might be a 90% deal, right? Say, man, I do that kind of thing 80-90% of the time, so that little extra 10% is very useful to me. So it's a balance. If you're a pragmatic person, if you got gas like I do, you just buy it anyway because it's new. But if you're very pragmatic about your photography, you might still be using an EP5, or a Mark One camera, the EM1 Mark One or EM10 Mark One. I mean, I think any of the Olympus cameras will give you the same image quality ultimately than any camera that's out today. Uh, Hi Rob, do you have any suggestions for shooting documents? I need to take some photos of old maps. What lens might you want to use in flash? Ooh, well, shooting a document, it's if you're shooting maps, wow, it depends how big the documents are, right? And you definitely need a tripod. And if you can, you want to diffuse the light so it goes across evenly on the surface. Uh, and by tripod, I mean you want the tripod to be, if it's on flat on a table, then you need a tripod where you can invert the camera, or it has an arm on it that lets you extend the camera out. Because you've seen those tripods that the stock comes up and then bends. That's probably the best kind of tripod to do that, assuming it's not a huge map like a wall map. And then for lighting, you want to have probably at least 2 light sources diffused so that it evenly lights the map surface. And you can use a flash with the diffusers, but you need 2 flashes, or you need um, two light sources, relatively bright, so your exposures aren't too long, but be on a tripod. And then if it's on a wall, it's the same idea, but then the challenge with being on a wall is, well, even a flat surface, really the challenge with documents is the level. You want to make sure the sensor is perfectly parallel with the surface. Because if it's off this way or this way a little bit, this corner is going to be out of focus, right? Or this whole section. So that's the most important thing, is getting it level uh, and parallel. So don't rely on the level meters in the camera. That'll get you there with some precision, but it may or may not be accurate. Uh, so you want you want to use a bubble level and take a test shot and visually inspect every corner of that image and make sure, and obviously turn off image stabilization, because that can also uh, slightly move the sensor in a way that something's going to be out of focus. And as far as lenses go, uh, any of the pro lenses, very sharp, tack sharp. But if you don't want to use a pro lens, then the regular lenses, the 12mm f2, I think would be a good choice. It's a decent wide angle and it's very, very sharp. And so, like I said, when I think of maps, I think of, at least a square meter, right? Size map. But I think, diffuse lighting and being parallel are the two most important things. But maybe Rick knows. He's probably done it before. Oh, Rick wants me to post a link to the manual. Yeah, I can do that. It's for Elaine. I've already downloaded all of the manuals, and what's it called? Olympus. I don't know which camera she has exactly though. Elaine, what do you have? The M5 Mark II? Then I can download that. Roberto's asking, in the last video I did on live composite, can I do that without live composite? You can, but you just need multiple lights, right? And more diffusion. Because I've seen some very elaborate product photography setups. So when you search YouTube for product photography, you'll see some, $10,000, $20,000 or more setups for product photography, and those, then you can do it, right? And it's almost required as a professional, if you're doing it for professional work, high-end type product photography, you do need a lot of different kinds of lighting to present the image in a way that, or present different types of images. So, but it can be done. I would say I would need at least 3 light sources to duplicate an image like that. But then it kind of gets complicated, right? I would need a key light on a snoot to highlight the M5 Mark III. Then I would need sort of a soft light to illuminate the entire scene, the table, the photos, and the camera in the background. And then I would need one more light as a fill light in the front, to and maybe with a snoot to bring up the EM5 Mark III again. So I think I could do it with 3 lights if I don't know if that makes sense, but you have a very strong key light with a snoot on the EM5 Mark III. You have a soft light that illuminates the entire scene to the level that it needs to be, and then you have one more light with a snoot pointing right in front of the camera, front and center, to illuminate the M5 Mark III even more. And I think that'll get you there pretty close. Maybe I'll do that. One of the home indoor. The thing with my tutorials, I always try and do it with minimum gear. One flash, one camera, one lens, right? And if it's going to be a camera and lens, it's going to be kit lens and EM10 or EM5, right? Basic gear, because it's definitely upward compatible with any other Olympus camera. And when I start doing tutorials where you have multiple lights and flashes, it introduces a lot of other potential challenges, right? Because then you need to start dealing with wireless triggers, more expensive gear, and also a lot, controlling the light from different sources, and then diffuser panels and different ways to diffuse things. And it's not a photography that I do professionally, so I couldn't do a tutorial like that, because that's just not my audience, right? My audience is primarily, people have one camera, maybe two lenses, and maybe a flash. If you don't have a flash, you're missing out. So before you buy another lens, buy another flash, in my opinion. But uh, anyway, okay. Let's see. But yeah, Roberta, I could have done it, I think. Maybe I'll try that though, because I have about 10 flashes. Oh, okay, so Photo 7 says the Pro version has a lower power setting and can be stepped in 1/10 instead of thirds. Okay. I usually step in full stops. um, the flash and the camera. Erwin says, I love the live composite for portraits. I'll check out your live composite video. Okay, good. Yeah, it wasn't a portrait, it was a product photography thing, but. Hi, Captain, how are you? Good to see you again. Roman, how are you? Yeah, high res mode for maps should be fine. The only concern I have about using high res mode with something like a map that has to be accurate is there's the risk of some kind of artifact in the high res image. They're virtually impossible to see in a landscape or most use cases for handheld high res shot or high res shot modes. But if you're doing a map where there's a lot of fine lines that if it needs to be accurate, you might run into one part of that image that's just a little bit off, right? Some kind of artifact. So I don't recommend high res shot for doing maps when it has to be 100% accurate, because you run that risk, and there's no way a human could possibly visually find those artifacts on a map, right? Or no photographer would be able to do that, really. So I don't recommend high res shot mode for maps. Level with separate spirit level and T-square. Yes, thank you, Tony. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a map photographer or document photographer, but just conceptually, I know you need to get it perfect, right? And don't use high res shot mode. So if there's some professional ways to level things, then definitely take advantage of those tools, whatever they may be. And Roman says Flash does not work for high res. It does not. During this period of the would you expect a fire sale on cameras and gear? No, I do not, John. Let's see. I mean, I don't know enough about the economics of what's going on. Other than things are shutting down everywhere, right? So that may reduce demand for products on the consumer side, which in theory would raise prices, right? uh, I mean, lower prices if there's less demand. And if there's less supply, then there would be an increase in price, or the price would remain level. But yeah, it is a little bit over my head, the economics of what's going on. Yeah, Lane, I need to know exact model camera you have. I haven't seen you post that yet, so post it again for me if you haven't, even if you have, because I haven't seen it. Oh, all right. Now I see it. EM5, the Mark 1. Okay. Give me, let me get caught up on the comments and I'll go over there. Peter says, no flash, use 2 LED panels. Now I'm curious, Peter. Now this is a question. Is if you're going to use LEDs, I think you're definitely going to have them diffused, right? Because I've seen weird shadows with LEDs. You know, you get kind of this pattern shadow because of the multiple beads of the LEDs. So make sure if you use LEDs, they need to be very, very diffused, much more so than a flash. And the other challenge is the potential for flicker. Depending on which camera you have, you may or may not have that flicker mode or auto flicker. I think they all have, like, you can set it to 60 hertz or 50 hertz. But in practice, I really don't know how well that works. So just keep that in mind whenever you use a constant light source that's powered by a power supply. You're going to have to be very conscious of the frequency of the electricity you're getting to avoid the flicker and make the appropriate settings in the camera with LED lighting or any kind of constant lighting. And larger lenses are nice and sharp from corner to corner. Okay, that makes sense. And I think they use standard screw mount, right? That you can buy an adapter for the enlarger lenses. I think we had this conversation, right, Erwin? Um, PhotoSense says he's used high res with a flash in tripod mode. Okay, I'll have to try that. So sync speed's 1/60th of a second. I mean, it kind of makes sense, but you'd have to have some delay between each shot, right? For the flash to have a recycle time. I can't imagine that this has that setting in it. I know it has that setting in focus stacking. You can use flash. I'm in high res mode and I need a flash. Any flash, anywhere. All my flashes are out in the other room. No batteries. I was just bragging about how I have 10 different flashes, but none of them have batteries in them. I'll be right back because I'm curious about this other thing. All right. So I'm in high res shot mode. The flash is on. Well, it won't let me turn the flash on when I'm in high res shot mode. Yeah, I don't know. If I have to dig into the menu to find the right setting for it, maybe. But it's not something you can just go into high res shot mode and turn the flash on. Uh, Is there any way of stopping the Olympus caption from appearing on each photo? I didn't know there was any. I've never seen an Olympus caption on any of my photos. What are you referring to? In the EXIF data? Maybe? I'm not sure what you mean, Robert. Oh, hi, David. How are you? Tony says, Flash Photography gets great cover on Adorama, Mark Wallace and Gavin Hoey. Yeah, those two guys are awesome. Gavin's a little bit too fast, though, for me. You know? I mean, he talks like a mile a minute. But Mark Wallace, you know, he takes his time and explains things, and he does a good job. They're both awesome, but Gavin's fast, man. If I was younger, maybe, or smarter, one of the two. I can't keep up with him. Oh, that's right, Peter. I did see your email with your product shots. Yeah, you had them very well diffused and pretty far off. So that makes sense. Like I said, I think then the only other thing you would have to be careful of is the frequency, right? The flicker. Can the live view be cast on a monitor? Yes, you can do that, Roberto. I use this one. If you watch my video, I have two different videos. One for this one, the Field World F5 video. I think I attached this to my EM10 Mark II. And then on the field, I have another one over here. It's called an Anderson Ultra Bright. There's basically two different classes of monitors. This is like the one you see every day for like 150 bucks, and then they have ones that cost about $100 more. And the main difference is the light output, or how bright the screen is. So this screen is just barely usable outdoors, so you need to have the hood that comes with it attached. Then you can see it. The Anderson monitor, you don't need a hood or anything. It's so bright. You know, it's like 4 or 5 times brighter than this for about $150 more. But yeah, the M10 you can definitely output. About Flash, the one come with the EM1 Mark II is usable too. Yes, it's great indoors in smaller rooms, uh, because you can bounce it off the ceiling and get a nice diffused light. Outdoors, long as you're within 10 feet or 3 meters, if the person is in the shade, it'll illuminate them pretty nicely. But beyond that, it's not very flexible. It's just a light source. It's just a weak light source, so it's not very useful outside of those very limited use cases. To get really crazy with flash, you know, you really need to get the flash off of the camera and use it, you know, either on light stand or hand holding, etc. So as an on-camera flash, it's fine in smaller places or outdoors in shade, and even at night. Okay. Leon, how are you? Stuart, good morning. Okay. I am only 7 minutes behind, so let me get the EM1 Mark 1 manual for Elaine. Or EM5, I'm sorry, EM5. All right, there's the link. Let's see. Yeah, Rick suggested for the map photography to use the 45 f1.8. That seems tight to me, though. You'd have to have... That seems tight to me, but I don't know. Maybe. I mean, if you're only this far away from the map... But I guess if you can get some distance, it would be all right. Or if it's a small map, I don't know. Let's see here. You can set the flash recycle time for high-res mode. Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's there. It's just not in the super control panel, which makes sense. Why would it be there? High res. I'll be dang, it's right there. Charging time. But I don't know why it's grayed out. Let's see. Go to tripod mode. Okay. Yeah, so high res shot mode has the ability to use flash. You just set the cycle time in the menu. So if you have like a 2 battery flash, I'd set the cycle time to at least 10 seconds. If you have a really good 4 battery or lithium flash, you can probably recycle in 5 seconds. But now it's taking you like a minute to take a high-res shot mode, in addition to like the 30 seconds to process it in camera. But anyway, good. Let's see. Can I do time lapse in my Olympus EM10 Mark II, or can I record it slow motion? Yes to both, Playtop. You have a time lapse feature, and I have a video on that with the EM10 Mark II. Just search my channel for time lapse. It's one of my favorite personally favorite videos. And let me see if I can tell you the episode number. It's so easy to find. Oh, it's not called time lapse. What's it called? Yeah, episode number 93. So look for episode 93. That's a great video on it. And then what was the other part of that question? I already forgot. Slow motion, yeah, you can do up to 120p slow motion in a lower resolution. I think it's 680 by 480. See, this is the PLA, but it's practically the same camera. Oh, apparently it's not practically the same. But yeah, you can do 60p 1080 and slow it down to 24 frames in post-processing, and then it has a 720. It has 120 frames per second at a lower resolution. I forget if it's like regular HD, like 720p, or if it's the 640 by 480. And the quality is pretty good. Chan, how are you? He says, hi Rob, I want to purchase a zoom lens. Currently using the kit lens 40 to 150 for street photo. Plan on upgrade. Any suggestions? I've owned the 12 to 40 and the 45 to 1 prime. So do you want to replace the 40 to 150 with the same focal length? Then that's the 40 to 150 Pro from Olympus. Another good replacement in that focal range that's smaller is the Panasonic 35 to 100 f2.8. those would be two good options if we want to replace that focal length. If you just want a street lens, I mean, I think 17 millimeter f1.8 is my favorite street lens from Olympus. 17 millimeter f1.8. Panasonic has the 20 millimeter f1.7 and a 14 millimeter f2.5. And for a little more money, you can get the 15 millimeter f1.7, which looks amazing. But if you want to replace a 40 to 150 focal length, I would get the 12 to 35 from 12 to 100 from Panasonic for a smaller size, and then the 40 to 150 Pro from Olympus are two good options. Jose says, hi Rob, for birds in flight, the EM1 Mark II, do you recommend CAF plus tracking? At times tracking makes the focus point jump randomly, and other times it seems to work fine. No, just use the little 5-point continuous autofocus without the tracking. The tracking is too jumpy and unreliable. Just, 90% of the bird photography, it's all in the skill of the photographer of just being able to keep up with the subject. Once you get it in the frame, keep it in there and try and keep it in the center. But the tracking is terrible. There's another mode I want to try, but for now, yeah, the 5, just select the center 5 points and get good at tracking it with your eye and not rely on the camera. Download the Adobe Acrobat app and use it to open the manual. Yes. Yeah, if you want to open up a PDF manual, Adobe Acrobat is free, but I also think that like Chrome, if you use Windows, will open up PDF documents inside of Chrome. But, the Adobe Acrobat is a nice application. You should definitely have that, and it's for Mac and PC. Plato says the Olympus caption appears when I post on Flickr. Oh, so we're talking about the text, right? Yeah, you replace that when you're uploading it, because I have to do that myself. Delete the caption and type in a new one. But that caption is in the EXIF data. So either you edit the EXIF data before you upload it, or you can edit it in Flickr when it's uploaded. Chuck says, I was thinking of using some LED panels I have, but to control them is via pulse width modulation and may show up at high shutter speeds. It will make a good experiment. Okay. Pulse width, that sounds familiar to me. I don't know what that is, but it sounds familiar. Matthew says, have you or are you planning to do basic setup video for the M1 Mark III? I have not done it, but I can do one. I haven't finished the M5 Mark III yet, but basic setup I can try. Yes, in the exit data when exporting from file Olympus Workspace and Photoshop. Oh, that's the other thing is when you can export from I think Workspace without the EXIF data, I believe, so that the title doesn't show up. I haven't tried it yet. I know you can export without EXIF data, but I don't know if it actually strips out that Olympus camera caption. If it strips out all EXIF data, including that, or if it only strips out the exposure data. But when you go to export from Olympus Workspace, you can select the file type. So you select JPEG or JPEG with EXIF. Otis Swin says, when I turn the flash remote when using high res, the shutter goes to max 1/50th. Yeah. Let me see what mine is. Yeah, I'm at 1/50th also. What do you mean my card is full? This 250, you know, I think this card is going bad. Oh, no. This is the 32 gig card is full. I wanted to show you guys, but hold on. Yeah. If I go into shutter priority, and go into high res shot. Oh, damn it. Sorry. I forgot to turn the flash on. I was like, I can set any shutter speed I want, but then I don't have the flash on. So mine is menu. Set this to tripod. Okay. Yeah. So if you're going to use flash in handheld high-res shot mode, or I mean tripod shot mode, your maximum shutter speed is 1/50th of a second. Hey Rob, the Fuji fanboys will be very upset after your comments on the XT30 continuous autofocus. Yeah, I mean it's too bad. But if I ever do a video of side by side, I bet my EM10 or PL8 would do better than the Fuji XT30. I bet my old piece of crap PL8 will do better than an XT30. I just cannot believe how bad it was. I didn't get one shot in focus. All right, where am I here? So I did that. I never said it was fast. Okay, now it just occurred to me. You were talking about the shutter speed in high-res shot mode. That's true, right? People say you can do things sometimes, but then when people go check it out, they're like, well, I didn't know it was going to be at this speed, right? It's kind of like people's Facebook profile picture, you know? You see the picture, then you go meet them in person, and it's like, well, yeah, that's not right. If you use an Olympus flash with high-res mode, the recycling is handled automatically. Yes, it is. Thank you for pointing that out. I don't own any Olympus flashes other than the FML3. But you're right. If you use a legit Olympus branded flash, it communicates with the camera and tells it when it's ready to fire again. Thank you, Lars. I totally forgot about that because it's not something I do, right? Rob, background show of seagull to fly in the head whole time. Where's my green screen? I know, right? Let me see if I can change this easily. If I click that. Yeah, that didn't work. Go up, up, up. Nope. How about this? There. Now I need to move this. All right. There's my blue screen. Enough of that seagull. What time is it? Okay. I'm going to try and wrap up in about 20 minutes. All right. have you seen my profile, Playtop? I did, and I got your email and I looked at your Instagram. My question is, do you want me to post my thoughts on each picture on Instagram, or did you want me to email you? Kind of a general overall kind of theme. Because Playtop, your pictures are nice. I mean, they're definitely beginner level though, right? There's a lot of things I would do differently now that I have a couple of years behind me, and I'm not the best person to ask for advice or critique someone's photos. But I'd say that the two things that I saw with your account was uh, your lighting is a little bit flat, and in the product type shots you were doing, uh, they were okay. I think those had more of a composition issue. So I'll have some give some thought to it, and that's the other thing is, I'm really not in any position to criticize anyone's photos because if you look at the photos I take, there's a lot of room for improvement as well on my Instagram, and I I I feel a lot of I feel sometimes I feel a little uncomfortable trying to give somebody advice on how to take a picture when I myself am not there yet, right, or any position to judge anyone else's pictures. So I just whatever I say or recommend, take with a grain of salt. If I put any recommendations on your images, because it's totally how I would shoot the scene a little differently, and uh, may or may not suit what you're trying to go for. Because I've seen images that I thought were just meh, on other people's accounts, but then they got thousands of likes, and I'm like, why? What? You know what I mean? It's like, so my tastes are very different, right? For one thing, and photography is also very, very subjective. But I'll be happy to point out how I would do it differently if I were taking the same shot. And then, like I said, take that with a grain of salt. I think, uh, really, I don't want to project any of my own personal influences on anyone else when it comes to photography. Uh, because everyone needs to find sort of their own uh, voice or own sort of uh, take on the world and the images that they take. And sure, try to find inspiration in other types of photography, but always look for that your own voice and your own interpretation of a scene, or how you want to capture and tell your story best you can, right? It's never good for someone to try to influence you to do one thing or another. Um, Especially in photography, if you're looking at it from an artistic perspective. If you want technical advice, like how would I illuminate this image or how would I get this, yeah, I can probably help you with that to a great extent from the level that you're at now. But from an artistic sense, yeah, I'm not much use, and nobody really should, I think, influence you artistically as a photographer. Um, you always need to find your own voice and your own inspiration, and take what you find is useful to your photography and just ignore everything else, right? Like there's certain rules of composition that make no sense to me, right? I mean, I see it in images sometimes, uh, but then I don't understand them sometimes, and people make them work, but I can't, so I just ignore them if it doesn't work for me. If I have to work so hard to find a particular to make, I don't know. Anyway, my advice is don't take anyone's advice. Basically, do what you think is best. If it's a very objective question, yeah, definitely ask a lot of those. Ask as many objective questions as you can. Like what's wrong with this picture? It's too dark. Well, that's an objective question, right? You can say, well, increase your exposure by increasing your ISO or letting the shutter stay open longer. Those kind of things I think I can help with, but other things, yeah. Let's see. Sorry, I start to ramble sometimes and I get behind. Matthew's asking, is the FML3 high enough to shoot past the 12 to 100 Pro lens? I seriously doubt it. Because I get shadows on my 12 to 40 Pro even, I think. Let's see. It's my flash box. I keep everything in these little dollar store toolboxes, and I label them and I stack them up. But it's where my FML3 lives, or one of them. Let me just check for you, okay? I'm gonna use the 14 to 150 lens because it's pretty long, like the 12 to 100, and I'll see. Because the 12 to 100, that doesn't extend, right? I don't know. It's not a lens I own because it's just so heavy. And f4 with that kind of size and weight, I ain't doing it. So let me get out of high-res shot mode so it doesn't take an hour to process. All right. Find the white wall. That was a terrible picture. Hold on. Stop it. All right, so at this works. This doesn't cast a shadow, right? Let me go out even more. Okay, this still has no shadow. Go out more. Wow, still no shadow even at that. I got that all the way down. Even fully extended, you can see the image is completely white, no shadow. So I think you're safe with the 12 to 100 with this little FML3. So I must be thinking of something else I was doing that I got a shadow, but I don't see any shadow with that 14 to 150 fully extended even. Noe, how are you? Noe is an awesome photographer in Korea. I think he's from Texas, but he lives in Korea. He does cyberpunk style photography most of the time, but I've seen other stuff he's done, anime and things. So if you want to get really creative with your photography, and he's very accomplished in his field, he's been recognized, I think, by BBC and certainly in Korea. Sorry, I can't remember. No, but I know he's very well recognized photographer for his style work. You should check out his Instagram channel to get a feel for what he does. I can just go there because I see your pictures time. I mean, I hit like on your pictures, Noe, but you get like 2,000 likes on your images. I seriously doubt you know I even exist on Instagram. But yeah, here's some of Noe's work. This is his Instagram channel, so check that out. Yeah. And infrared. Yeah, he does a lot of infrared too. And he has a great channel on YouTube. He really walks you through step by step everything he does, you know. which, you know, I really respect that because the wrong dang button. Because like I was saying early in my live stream, not a lot of photographers show you uh, the original raw image, but he starts with that original image and then edits it to the point that you see like on his Instagram account. So that's awesome. I know he's saying that's why he doesn't give feedback to people. Anime, where am I? Likes on Instagram does not equal art or quality. Agreed. Agreed. I mean, I use the likes to kind of just pay attention, uh, just so people know I've seen their photos and I like them. But when someone's got thousands of likes on them, I think Noe's likes are legitimate in the sense that he doesn't have fake followers. He grows his channel organically, and like I said, he's a pretty accomplished photographer in his own right. So you know, he has a fan base. But yeah, just because a picture's got a lot of likes doesn't mean it's a good picture. It just means somebody's popular or their style is popular. Because there's a lot of photographers or images that I see with likes on them that, because, you know, I subscribe to these generic ones like black and white photography, and I'll see like 1,000 likes on a black and white image, and I'm like, why? What? You know, anyway. But that's just me, right? We all have our own tastes. Um, thanks, Playtop. Okay, I'll make some recommendations that I would do. And David Crooks, I'm not sure. I think I did. Let me give some thought to that for a second. Roberto, thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Roberto just gave me $5. That's awesome. Thank you. Lauren is right. Instagram is no measure for good pictures. But only if my family like my photos, yeah. Okay, thank you, David. The 12 to 100 does extend. So I did my best with this. I don't know if that, I forget who asked about that, but yeah. Even when I have it extended like this, the flash does not project the shadow. But when I'm zoomed out like this, my field of view is very tight, right? So it makes sense. So let me go to 100 and see. Yeah, nothing. At 70. Yeah, still no shadow at all. Anyway. Oh, thanks, Arthur. Let's see. Anime photography, good. Just been guaranteed for like 3 months now. Oh, quarantined. I don't have my glasses, so everything is fuzzy to me. Wonder if I can make this larger. Let me try that real quick. I'll probably lose audio though. Oh, wow. Look at that. I can expand this. Jackpot. That helps a lot. I just made my fonts bigger on this other screen. Yeah, Nat Geo, right? National Geographic. So he's had some recognition. No, he's had some recognition with National Geographic. Rick says, don't leave your finger in front of the lens. And make sure you don't leave your lens cap on the front. Man. Yeah, I know. I know, Noe, about being quarantined. I mean, not personally. I just see in the news. There's been a lot of quarantines and a lot of drama going on with that. Yeah, Noe has I don't know, like 20,000 followers. Let me see, 39,000 followers. He only had 20,000 the last time I recommended him, so I gave you 20,000 new followers, Noe, just so you know. So look for another 20,000. So what do I have almost 20,000 subscribers, so you probably got all of my subscribers. That's why you're last time I looked at your, I always look at your images, but I never looked at your how many people you're following. Last time I looked at it, it was like 20,000. So I feel like you've doubled since then, since I recommended you, right? Oh, hey Robin, how are you? My goodness, you are late because I'm about to wrap up. Man, but there's still a bunch of people here. That's what I mean. I'm really trying to cut my live streams down to like 2 hours or less going forward. And then but it doesn't really pick up until the first hour, right? And then now it's peaking. I'm like at Yeah, I'm at the peak of the chat right now. There's more people in here now than there was at any time in the stream. Thanks to Robin, you're number 87. Now it's 88. It keeps going up. Why? Oh. Okay, I'm gonna definitely keep it short today though. But I'm glad you can make it, Robin. Good to see you. Always good to see you, and some really good videos from you lately about photography. Robin Wong, he has a channel. If you guys, I'm sure you guys all know him. Like he needs an introduction, but he has a YouTube channel, and he's been cranking out some photography-based videos lately about improving your photography. And I did watch them. I watch everyone's videos, but I can't remember Jack now. My brain just I just remember they were about photography. But he gave like 5 or 6 tips on something, and then on another video gave some tips about upping your game, and I just can't remember now though. But when I watch them, I enjoy them. Oh, composition. Yes, that's right. That's right. Oh, there's a question there for you, Robin. Compare the 12 to 100 and the 12 to 200. See, those are two lenses, Kostov, that I will probably never buy. Because the 12 to 100, everybody says is super sharp and beautiful, but it's a big, heavy butt lens that's an f4. I'm going to carry that kind of weight. I want an f0. And then the 12 to 200, that's another big, heavy lens. It's the same size as the 12 to 100. I'm not doing it. So I got the 14 to 150, which I'm going to start shooting with more. This is awesome, right? Nice and light, not heavy, weather sealed. And really, really sharp, actually, up to about 100 millimeters. Those shots look really good. The ones I shot over 100 millimeters, I haven't narrowed out if it's me or the lens, but they weren't that great. But it might be me, right? Because when you start shooting super telephoto like that, photographer still comes into play, right? Being a good photographer, or let me rephrase that, being very skilled with your camera becomes a major part of shooting at longer focal lengths. Just like birds in flight, the quality of your images is greatly dependent on the skill, on your skill as a photographer. Eric, how are you? I own the M10 Mark II and have one question. When using the EVF by touching the back screen by my nose is changing the focus point. How do I disable this? Oh, you turn it off. Hold on. Where's my EM10? Behind me, I think. Has a battery. Oh, all right. Give me a second here. Where is it? Go into menu K. Right here. So go into the custom. Go into menu K, utility, and in here. In here, you'll see touchscreen settings, and you can just turn that off. So right now I have it on. It's right here, and just turn that off. And then, you know, if your nose is touching it, nothing happens. All right, let's see. I'm almost there. Oh yeah, Robin did a workspace video too. He goes in and he just edits all his photos. But his photos, man, he only had to do a little bit, right? Just, oh, let me raise the shadow just a little bit. And then he's done. Let's see. The best ever workspace. Yep, I agree though. That was a good tutorial. Mine are better though. Just kidding. I don't think my workspace videos are more tool driven, like how do you do this, how do you do that, not about actually using the thing to edit a photo. I don't think I've done a workspace video like that. I should get around to it though. But like I said, I hate post-processing. If I ever do a raise the shadows or bring the highlights down or adjust the contrast, whatever, that's pretty rare. You know, if I can't do it in camera, then I need to figure out what I'm doing wrong photographically as a photographer. I'll do post processing for certain types of professional work because of the requirements there. But for my personal photography, if I ever have to do adjustments in post processing, I do it with the thought process of how do I do this when I'm in the field and how do I get the exposure that I want in the field. You know, always try to get it right in camera. Then you'll have less work in post-processing, just like all of Robin's images that he edited in his workspace video. I mean, they were just very small tweaks here and there. Let's see. Thank you, Matthew. Yeah, Robin and Peter, definitely. Joe Ellis. I mean, there's a lot of great Olympus educators. Joe Edelman is a really good channel. And then, like previously mentioned, Mark Wallace and Gavin Hoey. There's so many good channels that, you know, and Noe's channel. Yeah, everybody's really good. All right, Noe, we'll see you later. I'm sorry I missed you. Let's see. Okay, Eric. But with EVF screen is disabled, just for some reason, only focus point is changing, but we'll try your advice. Okay. Try that and let me know, Eric. I guess, you know, I have a forum that you can ask questions on, and I check that every couple of days. Uh, because sometimes in the live stream, it's hard to get your question out because you only have 200 characters, right? And sometimes I have a hard time understanding the question because you've had to abbreviate your question. So in my forum, you can ask me there and check there. But a really good place, if you really want a good answer, is MU43 forums. It's mu-43.com. They have an excellent community there that can help you with anything Olympus. Every time I try to answer someone's question when I'm on that forum, like 10 other people come in and give better advice than I did after I try to answer the question. So that I know that's an excellent forum. Yeah, what I need to do is, Roman, uh, I really should do a comparison between Workspace and something like Lightroom or Luminar. There are some significant differences um, in the kind of results you get. That's why it's so important to get it right in camera. That way you don't have to resort to these paid versions of photo editing, because Workspace is fine, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't process the photos anywhere near as well as Lightroom when you have to do some hardcore recovery. Um, the IBIS of the M1 Mark II video, yes. M1 Mark III. Even with the fonts larger, I still have trouble reading. Rick says, Rob, is your forum working properly? Yeah, as far as I know, Rick, I thought I fixed everything the last time I was having a problem. About a week after that, I got it fixed, and I can get in and answer questions and make posts. I think the most recent post, I'll pull it up here in a second. Um, and Abby said, I did my first macro shots last Saturday on the M10 Mark II and tried a 60mm lens from Olympus. Any tips on editing shots in Lightroom? I really have to increase the texture. Yeah, Abby, basically with the spider webs, you have to have some speculars on it, right? Because they're so thin and small, they get easily lost in the background or against a background that might be kind of flat. So you have to like if the spider web is wet or the sun is shining at it at the right angle. So it's really about capturing it correctly when you're in the field. Once you're in post-processing, it's very difficult to correct the spider web. So I would recommend maybe the texture slider in Lightroom, increase the texture and clarity sliders, and then do masking on the sharpening, and that may bring it out more. So those are the three things I would try: texture, clarity, and the sharpness masking, so that you sharpen only the fine points of the web, but not the softer points in the background. And that should bring it out more. And then, of course, there's always contrast and things, too. But yeah, Lauren's recommending Photoscape X, which I agree with. It's the free version is really nice. Does a good job on JPEGs. I'm not sure if it works on the Olympus RAWs, though. Maybe it does. But I usually use it just for composition. like, or composites where I put things together versus really for the editing part of it. Like I said, I rarely edit in any program anyway. I read there may be an 8 to 25. I know. I hope so, Felita. I keep hearing that in my live streams, but I haven't actually seen it yet. I learned from the pros I worked with when digital didn't exist that post-processing is part of the process, especially in black and white. Learned so much from famous printer Robin Bell. Yes, I agree. I agree. You know, the post-processing is, you know, like Ansel Adam used to post-process the death out of his photos. Uh, but I'm not at that point yet that I want to go to post processing to try to fix an image. I want to try and capture it best I can. So I'm still kind of beginner level. Because I've gone in and post processed the heck out of images back in the day. Like if you guys saw my old Instagram account, those images are heavily edited. Let me see if I can pull it up. I'm embarrassed to show it, but it's. Let's see what. Dang it! I lost sound a minute ago. I'm sorry. So what I was saying is, Photos, please, yeah, post something that I can look at. I don't know what they're talking about, these watermarks. And Elaine, yes, I agree. Who doesn't do that, right? We all like to like mess with our photos. It's basically a digital canvas and a paintbrush. And hi, Rob. Any thoughts on the grip for an EM13 with a joystick? I have no idea. Hopefully they do. Forget about that. I may have saved an older version, but the version is working for me. Oh, I'm sorry. So hopefully I answered everyone's questions. Before I lost the mic. But I'm gonna just show you one more thing. And then I'm gonna wrap it up. This is my forum, so go to robtrek.com And you can post images, you can post questions. Right here, man, it's so tiny. Here, YouTube topic suggestions. So if you have any ideas that you want to see videos on, just let me know here. And then the rest of this is just kind of open forums for questions and things. And here's a post from one day ago that I need to get to. So it's not a super active forum. What is it? 139 members. And I use this mainly to keep track of your suggestions for YouTube topics and videos that I can make, because the way I was doing it before was a mess. You know, people would email me and then I would lose their email, or they'd email me and I never saw it because it got buried in all of the other junk mail that I get. So I created this forum primarily to keep track of your suggestions. And then if you have questions, I'll try and answer them. And then the other areas of the forum here are mainly for just for you guys to talk amongst yourselves, or if you want to share some image with me. This is definitely one way I'll see it, right? And then let me end with this other thing here. This is my old Instagram account that I don't update anymore. But yeah, all these images in here, these are highly processed. You know, like look at this composite I did, you know. This is like when I used to go hiking a lot and camping. I composited a bunch of things together from all the images that I did that summer from camping. That's what that is. And this was kind of a fun image that I processed. If you saw the before picture, it looks kind of like I do in this live stream. It's very plain, but then I went crazy with the editing. So yeah, post-processing. You can do a lot of things. Okay, Playtop, a good app. Yeah, I would use Olympus Workspace, or you can try Photoscape X. And man, there's like more people here now than ever. Why? Am I starting too early? Maybe I should start later. Maybe because Robin came in and everybody started jumping in. Oh, Robin's here. Okay, bye, Peter. I changed it, Mallory, my background. Oh, thank you, Robin. I start too early. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe I'll start the live stream later next time, because man, it's like 90 people here. That's just shocking to me. 90 people that sit here and watch me jibber jabber. David Crooks. Oh, David, you were asking if I saw your email. Let me double check. I have not seen your email, David. David, let me just search for it. Oh, here it is. No, that's spam. David, I don't got an email from you that I can find, so try again, or post in my forum. I'll definitely see it there, but if you email me, maybe I'll see it this time. I haven't seen it yet, so if you're still here, just email me again. Let's see. Man, 94. It keeps crawling up, man. Everybody keeps dropping in. Robin, you're just calling all your friends to come in, aren't you? They can't be coming here to see me. Yeah, post-processing. Yeah, I had fun with it. I don't know if I'm good at it, but I had fun with it. Okay, see you, Lauren. Can you compare between the EM1 Mark III and the Panasonic G9, especially in regard to dynamic range and low light? Your best bet is maybe, I don't have a G9 to compare you up, so, or you'd. I honestly, I don't. Check out DP Review's site, because they have raw images that you can download and compare for yourself at different ISOs. That's probably the best way to do it, and see if one camera gives you a better result than another one for the kind of images you want to take. They have full galleries that you can download, then they have test charts that you can download. That's the best way to compare them for yourself on your own computer, etc. Because if I look at the specs on paper, the M1 Mark III is better in terms of dynamic range or ISO performance. Not dynamic range, but in ISO performance, it's a little better. But I don't know if that means the JPEGs are better or the RAW files better. Is the processing better? I mean, when I see something that says this is better, take it with a grain of salt. Download the images for yourself and look at them side by side and say, the only thing I would tell you not to use the DP Review site for is to check the image sharpness of the images, because they use different lenses. It's very difficult to compare sharpness when they're not using the same exact lens. We have to stay home anyway, huh? Wow. It's 1,800 hours in South Africa. Oh, okay. I'm definitely going to end in 5 minutes, though. Elaine, how about setting up EM5 Mark 1? Help threads Rob forum. Hang out on my forum. I don't know. Like I said, the forum is pretty sparse right now. The early adopters that signed up were great contributors, but then it just kind of. But like I said, I put it there more for a thing. You just finished a video to upload tomorrow. Awesome. Awesome. Robin's going to post a video tomorrow, everyone. So definitely watch that. His stuff is always good. So is Peter and Maddie and all the guys. Micro Four Nerds, Joe Ellis. There's so many good channels in the Micro Four Thirds community. That's what I really like is the you guys, the photographers, and then also the YouTube creators online, photographers online on YouTube are also great, and the whole community is really nice. Yes, Juan. Panasonic is better for video, no question. EM1 Mark III better for choice for photography. I agree. I agree. That would be my advice to anyone shopping cameras is if you're hardcore in the video, but you have to be pretty high-end video where you're going to appreciate 4K 60 and things like that. Those are features most of us don't use. I think for video, the M1 Mark III is more than enough for most people. Like even for me, when I vlog, the video on the M1 Mark III or I honestly, this Pen PL8, this is what I vlog with most of the time before I got the M5 Mark III. The video is fantastic, but if you want to get right down to it, yeah, Panasonic's better for video. Hi, which are the best extension tubes for macro photography? Um, you know, there are some very expensive ones. I bought generic ones from Mikey, Mieke, and then I recently bought these. These are all plastic. I mean, this body is plastic, the mount is plastic, so they're not going to last very long. But they were only $16, right? So you can look for these. uh, you just have to. The reason they get very expensive, $60 to $100, is they start making them all metal outside the mount and also inside. Okay, not just the outside and the mount, but they get all metal inside, and the quality of the contacts and the build, uh, and the tolerance standards for fitting the camera. Because I've bought extension tubes that were cheap before that had very poor quality control and would not engage the camera. The little locking pin was too shallow. So sometimes you get them like that. So I got lucky. I got these for $16 and they worked. But yeah, so when you ask me what are the best extension tubes, it's pretty much you get what you pay for, from $16 up to like $100. And I just buy the cheap ones because I don't do a lot with macro tubes. Time to time I do things. And I like it for fun, but I'm not serious about it, right? If I was serious about macro photography, I would either get a macro lens or I'd get some kick butt extension tubes that are all metal inside and out. And the better extension tubes, a lot of times they'll have like a felt inside here to reduce the reflections and things in here in the tube. So yeah, you have to kind of look out for a lot of different things. I'm not an expert on extension tubes, but I'm just kind of giving you some guidelines of the differences that I saw when I was shopping these. And it's the overall build quality and tolerances of the manufacturing that uh, are really the difference from the cheap ones and the expensive ones. um, Rohit, so hopefully that helped. Okay, it's 12 o'clock. I have to go. One, because I'm freaking hungry. Like I was saying, I don't know why at my age, or if it's because of my age, but when I get hungry, it's not like I'm a little bit hungry. I get famished within a few minutes of thinking about food. It's like, I gotta eat now. Plus, I have to call another client back about something related to what's happening there. They have to do a lot of teleworking, so I'm helping them set up because of my live streams they watched. They want me to help them set up some things, so that's pretty cool. Um, let's see. So, all right, everyone. Thanks for coming in today, and we will catch you guys on Thursday. And I'm going to try and post a couple of videos this week at least, because I want to have 2 videos for every live stream. I'm trying to work towards that goal. So I'm going to do that, and I'll try and get back to everyone. Play top, and then David, that you said you sent an email. I'll look for it again, but I haven't seen it in the initial search. But your name seems familiar, so maybe I did see it somewhere. So I'm going to look harder. And as for everyone else, I appreciate you coming in and joining and participating, and we'll see you guys again soon.